Yo, what's good everybody? So I've seen a lot of people post videos talking about what they want to see in the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and as much as I don't want to do the same thing as everybody else, I feel compelled to make one of these videos, mainly because a lot of the things that I think of is stuff I haven't really seen in other videos. Maybe the stuff I think of is unique and innovative, or maybe it's just terrible ideas. Let me know what you think in the comment section.
Number 1, the ability to buy and sell weapons. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain about the weapons durability system in Breath of the Wild. It's generally the main thing that makes people not give the game a perfect rating. I actually don't mind it too much. Yes, the weapons breaking all the time can be a real pain, especially in the early game when I end up forced to fight monsters with sticks. But I often found myself mid and later game ditching a lot of weapons that were actually decent, and in a game where you can pretty much buy and sell everything, this really seems like a waste. I hate that I frequently have to throw away weapons with maybe 40 plus attack because I found another one that's slightly stronger, but it's still going to break. I can't tell you how many Lionel shields I've had to drop or just not picked up after a fight at all. If I could sell weapons though and keep my inventory a little bit lower, I'd be able to pick up most of the weapons that enemies drop. That's actually worth picking up anyway, and easily decide on ones to keep and ones to get rid of for a few extra bucks. Buying them would be more useful in early game when I haven't found much good stuff yet. Now, yes, you can buy some ancient weapons later on in the game, and they look super cool, but that's pretty much all they got. For the price and the materials you pay for them, it's not really worth it, especially when they break after like 2 fights. And you can find weapons almost just as strong in any random moblin camp by the time you've made it far enough to buy any of these anyway. Which leads us into the next thing on our list. Number 2, the ability to upgrade weapons. The biggest issue with the weapon system, if we're being realistic, isn't that the weapons break, but how fast they break. I love that I can use so many different weapons in this game and fight with pretty much anything, and for that reason I also do like the weapons durability system, but how fast the weapons break is sinful. I can see a tree branch or something breaking after a few hits, but a royal guard's sword, the weapon that was used to protect the king and the royal family, no wonder they all died. As I mentioned before, I feel like it's a real waste of time to pay $1,000 for this epic ancient chainsaw thing just to not even want to use it in a fight because I know it's going to break after like 2 battles. But if I could upgrade stuff, then I could give it improved durability, which most of them need, or whatever else. In this case, I'd be much more willing to use my actual good weapons. Upgrading stuff is also fun. Out of all the side quests in this game, one of my favorite things to do was upgrade my clothes. As well, in another game that I had a ton of side quests in, one of my favorite things to do was upgrade my sword in that one. Those things are fun because they actually have useful world applications, aside from just getting some extra money. Moving on. Number 3, a online mode. This is probably the main one for me. Zelda has always been a one-player adventure game, and it's great for that. I've seen a lot of people say they would like to see a co-op where 2 people can play and one controls Zelda, and that would be pretty cool too, but what I think would be really nice in this day and age would be an online mode. Imagine the war zone that is GTA Online, but in a Zelda world. Imagine your own personalized character, not necessarily the hero, but just something you design yourself, and being able to do whatever you want, finding, buying, stealing weapons, upgrading them, finding rare items, upgrading and personalizing outfits, running around the open world doing whatever. You could join other players in a fight against random in-world enemies, and maybe everybody shares the loot, or you can run through and take it all for yourself, make some more enemies, or you can fight other players and take their things. It would be like the Sword Art Online of our time, except without being trapped in the game. As much as I loved playing Breath of the Wild and put so many hours into it, the biggest issue I had was when I finally became super powerful. It was at the end of the game and there wasn't really much else to do. In an online world, once you get to full power, the game is just beginning. And that's going to take us to number 4, a deeper, more exciting and expansive world. Now this would more so be a good thing for online play, but regardless it would be nice for either way. Let's not focus so much on the expansive part too much because the world in Breath of the Wild is already huge by itself. The problem is it's huge, but there's not much in it other than random enemy camps, yigas, stables, ruins. As dope as playing online against other players would be, there's only so much climbing mountains and fighting randos I can do. Or is there? Something that would be a great touch for a sequel, and especially an online mode in a sequel, would be for the world to have more to do in it. Maybe some time has passed and all those ruined villages have been rebuilt. Or maybe you help rebuild them all. Maybe Terrytown has been expanded. Maybe have an actual city-sized town. Just more places to go and interact with players and comms that don't just lead to a cliff. And maybe, if called for, make the world bigger. I enjoyed every minute of exploration in this game, so much that I couldn't even stick to a single path or task because one thing would always lead me to another. But what I always found interesting was, what if I could get across these canyons? What if I could get to that far out land over there? What would it be? Anybody who grew up on games with fake walls knows it's the places you can't get to that you want to explore the most. Number 5. More mini games in towns with rewards and achievables. Breath of the Wild has some decent sized towns, and for the most part I like them. Now I did say more towns and places to go would be dope, but there's not much use if the only things you can do there is sleep, buy the local crop, pray to a statue. Where's the arrow games? Where are the bomb games? We do get a treasure chest game, but I wasn't too excited to win that because I feel like the reward was money and I already had a lot of money, which is also why I say achievables. Arrow games are fun, but not if there's nothing worth winning. Give me a variety of useful and fun prizes. Give me a larger arrow quiver. If they don't have the Sheikah Tech bombs in the next game, give me a bigger bomb bag. For a game about improvising and fighting tooth and claw, you sure do get a generous, unlimited arrow max right from the beginning of the game. I remember in other games I was always hyped when I was able to expand my inventory and carry more weapons. I don't mind working and playing some mini games or something to achieve bigger inventory. Finding Koroks was a nice way to expand inventory, but I think there could have been a much more fun way to build my inventory slot, aside from just running around and collecting golden turds. On to the next. Number 6. Traditional dungeons. Okay, this one I have seen on a lot of other people's lists, but it's because it's such an important one. Everybody wants it. Let's face it, the Divine Beasts were cool, they were glorious, they were triumphant, but they weren't good dungeons. They were short, puzzles were mostly laughable, the bosses were mediocre and easy to beat. Playing that game, I enjoyed the exploration to the max, and I loved the freedom, but at the same time, the whole map was given to me the second I left the Great Plateau. I could go to any of the 4 dungeons, really, 4 dungeons, whenever I wanted, and could kind of play the dungeons however I wanted. A little bit of linear isn't that bad. In the past, when I've played Zelda games, I love my freedom between story points, running around doing what I want when I want. But when I know I was working towards a dungeon, the build-up was exciting, and when it was time to play the dungeons, I was ready to spend a while in them, figuring it all out, fighting a mini-boss, finding a weapon, and using that weapon on the main boss. In the Divine Beasts, I just do whatever I want. I find some buttons to push, and when I do get to the bosses, I can really just hack away at them for most of the fight, which kind of makes the variety of weapons in this game useless. And look how many great places could have had a dungeon or a temple. Underneath this huge citadel, underneath here, maybe in caves inside this volcano, that's a generic but welcome location. Maybe a snow temple inside this huge mountain that looks more interesting than it actually is. Maybe inside whatever this thing is. Maybe inside this huge lake. This is the biggest Lake Hylia so far, and there's nothing to do but get a couple Koroks and find a shrine. And this goes back to the whole world not being full enough as well. This world is huge, and for all the dead spaces it has, throwing 6 or 8 or maybe even 10 temples would really fill it out. I'll even take a water temple. I don't care. Whatever you can do, just roll it in a ball and throw it at me. Number 7, a more thorough story. Now I can say that I actually liked the story in Breath of the Wild. I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. I went around and collected all the memories. I wanted to know what happened. I was actually sad on the Mipha scene where she was piloting Vah Ruta, even if she really didn't have any character development. I was sad on the scene where Link died protecting Zelda. I liked seeing Zelda's journey into accepting Link, even if it was given to me out of order. And as a whole, I think the way the story was given worked well with the theme and the feel of the game. You wake up and the world is in ruins. You don't know what happened, but you gotta find out and fix it. I also think the Shrine of Resurrection wiping Link's memories is a good way to put the player in his shoes of not knowing what's going on. That stuff was cool, but it won't work again. Going into this next game, Link knows who he is. He's allegedly with Zelda throughout the game, or at least at parts. I want a straightforward story. Open freedom to do anything at any time is cool, but there's still ways to properly tell a good story. Other games have done it, and Zelda can do it too, as they've done before. Number 8, a real companion. At the end of Twilight Princess, I almost cried when Midna destroyed the Mirror of Twilight, closing off the connection between her world and the real world. Why? Because I spent so much time with her. You went through this huge journey, came from her just using Link to actually starting to respect him and even like him. She saves his life, he saves hers. There were some really touching moments. And the saddest part in many of the games is at the end when your companion leaves you. In Ocarina of Time, that was the basis for the whole next game. The companions are some of the best parts of the games, and when they leave, it's very emotional. Even his hat was his sidekick once. In Breath of the Wild, I get it. It's a lonely world and he's on his own, in the wild. The only guidance he gets, outside of help from a few key characters, is actually a distant voice of Zelda from inside the castle. Another thing that works well for this game, but on the next one, he needs a partner of some sort. Even if it's actually Zelda herself. I personally would love that because there's already that connection. Well, let's see what happens. Number 9, more exciting music. Another thing that worked well in Breath of the Wild for the feel of the game was the music, or lack thereof. A lot of people hated the sparse piano notes here and there, and a lot of people liked them, and the lack of overall world music. I personally didn't hate it, but it would be nice to have more, at least in this next installment. Hyrule Field is huge in this game, and actually really interesting to explore. In games past, getting out to the field was like your first real taste of this big expansive world, and in Breath of the Wild it's the same thing. You look at it from the Great Plateau, and all the work you do there is to get the hang glider so you can leave the plateau and go head to Hyrule Field. How much better would this moment be if there was some grand Hyrule Field music to hit you? The towns had okay music, with the best being Rito Village, but it could have been much more exciting. Number 10, a new villain. Ganondorf is an awesome villain. He's smart, strong, intimidating, and evil, but for a reason. His Breath of the Wild version kinda sucked, and if he's in the next game, I hope he's back to his former glory. But really, let's get someone new. Hyrule's ready for a new threat. Look how good an enemy Majora's Mask was, and it was just a mask. It didn't need to be deeper than that. Everything doesn't need to be tied to Demise and his curse. I always look at Zant pre-Ganondorf. Zant had appearance, he was scary, he had shadow beasts, and he was a force to be reckoned with. When it was revealed that Ganondorf was pulling his strings, he just turned stupid and hella lame. I would have been fine with him being the main bad guy all the way to the end, although Ganondorf did more than hold his own as the real enemy in that game. But in reality, the Link and Zelda Save Hyrule from Ganon story is starting to look like Mario saves Peach from Bowser. Give me something new, someone else interesting. Number 11? A new castle town? Maybe? This might be a hard one to pull off, being that the castle was destroyed and the royal family all dead other than Zelda and her knight. But in games that took place in Hyrule, eventually getting to Hyrule Castle Town was a big thing. There were things to do, people to see, and it was just all around a dope experience. If not a castle town, then something equivalent. If that's something that could be pulled off logically, I'd definitely invite it.
Thank you guys for watching, and feel free to argue in the comment section. Let me know what you agree with and what you don't agree with, and I'll see you next time.